I am a child of the light. I am a witness for God, the creator of all the good in our universe, and his son Jesus is my guide, and he is here to teach me why we are the way we are and what made us that way, something I have desired to know all my life. I urge you to listen to everything I have to say. I have pieced together documentaries also as part of my evidence. Please watch everything to understand and to see my story unfold. One group of people trick you that history repeats itself. How can the word history repeat an event? An event, anything that happens, an occurrence, especially one of great importance. And one occurrence of great importance in time was the life of Jesus. This one group of people stole his name and used it for their modern religion and said they were followers of the Saviour. Another occurrence of great importance was the life of Hippocrates, and they stole his name and said he was the founder of modern medicine and that science was the new saviour of the world. Why then are we living in a world that is now facing the same crisis as it has faced all throughout their empires? The world is once again full of hatred, racialism, war and revenge, sickness and disease. The mind of the world is destroyed once again. There is homosexuality, paedophilia, sex with children, bestiality, sex with animals, necrophilia, sex with the dead, incest, sex with the family, debauchery and orgies and all other sexual depravity, including sexual crimes. There is grotesque violence, torture, horrific murders, cannibalism, shrunken skulls caused by the Zika virus, cancers, plagues, famine, lupus, leprosy, slavery, corruption, dishonesty and deceit, and money worship and the rule of law, as it was during the time of Jesus. Many of you will know that for any event to be repeated, you need the same organisers or orchestrators, and the history of the world has always had the same organisers. We have had religious leaders, royal leaders and scientific leaders, and now governments that have always been controlled by one group of people. All these groups or empires are led by one group of people, and this means the mind of the world hasn't changed, because the mind that guides them has been the one that has always been in control. This group of people trick you. Jesus was one of them. So how comes we are in a world opposite to the one he had envisioned for us? Ideology, the political social philosophy of a nation, movement, group, etc. Science of ideas, theorist, a visionary. Religion is a movement. Ideologue, a supporter of an ideology, a theorist or visionary. So if Jesus was one of them, then why are we back in hell once again and descending deeper rapidly every day? Our world is now in the control of Britain and America, both countries that are guided by science. Jesus spoke out against the scientists of his day, the Pharisees. One of their most famous scientists, Einstein, said that we all send and receive signals to and from our brain, and that he received his knowledge from outer space. Your inner space is the world inside your body, and your outer space is the world just outside your body. This is the world that Jesus came to teach us of, but many people now reject him because they were tricked by science that seeing is believing. So if Jesus was alive in the flesh today, teaching of the spirit world, many would laugh and ridicule him because science has tricked them that seeing is believing. Jesus taught the world it was believing is seeing, and you reject him even further when you believe science, when they teach you there are no cures. How comes the so-called followers of Jesus, all the religious leaders, never taught you this? They do know it is hidden amongst the pages of the Bible. And why were Hippocrates and Jesus called healers by all your ancients? What has now become known as the ancient secret kept from the world by the religious leaders, teachers. Therefore I say unto you, whatever things you desire, when you pray, believe that you will receive them, and you shall have them. How can you ever find a cure when you believe there are no cures out there? This means any followers of science that has this belief is stunted by this belief. Any so-called followers of Jesus will deny him once again. If he was alive today teaching that he can cure, and many people look at me sideways when I say I've cured my asthma. This is why Jesus said, have faith in me and believe in me, and I will always be there for you. How can he help and guide you when you reject him and believe in science? On a physical level, when you ignore somebody, you don't listen to them. The same is for the spirit level. Science was always known as the dark arts, and where did Einstein and science get their knowledge from? His initial experiments led to the creation of the world's most destructive bomb. Therefore, he was the cause of the atom bomb. The story of science all starts with the story of the apple tree, a so-called tree of knowledge. But this tree came from the mind of the serpent, one of many forms of the devil. Religion said it was the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but it came from the mind of evil, therefore it has only knowledge of evil. The apple contains sugar, parabens and yeast, and you witness the truth every day, but ignore it because sugar is still destroying you to this day, and all sugars come from the mind of the creator of the apple. So when you want to learn how to make sugar, you need a guide that knows the one that guided Einstein to create the atom bomb. Your body ingeniously created lactose to keep you alive. That is the only sugar that comes from the mind of the creator of all the good. You allowed them to leave sugar in your foods because they taxed the food industry, but rose up against the water tax, but failed to rise up against what was in the water. You have been tricked to worship another creation of science, money, like the money worshippers in the Bible, and you fail to see what is more important, your own life. Fluoride is in your water, and it was the main component of the creation of the atom bomb. So what it does to the world around you, it will do to the world inside you. What you fail to see is that you have been tricked to worry more about money and not about your health. You have been tricked to leave your life in the hands of science. This is a system that creates chemicals like sugar and weapons like the atom bomb that are so destructive, but you have been tricked to only worry about money instead of what they are doing to us and the world around us. In traditional Christianity, the perennial, which means everlasting, ever-flowing and unceasing philosophy, was that the way of happiness and the way to salvation were to be sought not in the external environment, but in the individual state of mind with regard to the environment. Sugar destroys your mind, Antichrist, and the atom bomb destroys the environment, Antichrist. Another art of manipulation is to keep knowledge from people, as the Vatican have always done. This is a trait of science brought to the West by one group of people. This book teaches that the Peruvian Indians received their knowledge of how to grow ayushka, the mother of all hallucinogenic plants, and tobacco from the cosmic serpent. It is why Jesus warned us when he said, "For the fight is not against human foes, but against cosmic powers, against the superhuman forces of evil." The cosmic power is the cosmic serpent, one of many forms of the devil, the creator of the apple tree. Scientific leaders believe the devil is the font of all knowledge, the same belief as the religious leaders, because they are from one group of people that keep tricking you. Jesus was one of them. Religion is the belief in a superhuman being or beings. Why would the Vatican invest in alcohol, cigarettes and weapons that all came from the mind of the cosmic serpent? Why would they also allow experiments to be carried out on defenseless little orphans? And why did they teach sickness and disease was a punishment from the gods? Whose message are they really carrying? Jesus was a healer, and he was sent into the world to heal it. So why would the Vatican teach that sickness was a punishment from the gods? What God? The evidence is there to prove what Einstein said, that you do send and receive signals to and from your brain, and the fact that the mind can control a bionic arm and that they now can download our thoughts onto a computer is evidence of what he said. But Jesus already taught us of the power of the mind, and the world would rather follow Einstein and other scientists instead of Jesus. It's more cool to look up to Einstein than it is to believe in Jesus. Very powerful manipulation, isn't it? And the master of manipulation is the devil. All the cunning, cheating, deceiving-minded people are guided by this entity. They are of a different mindset. Even more powerful manipulation is when you believe your food has nothing to do with your well-being, as science is now teaching. This means you will not only reject Jesus, who warned his followers not to eat their bread, but God, the creator of all the good in our universe, who warned us not to eat the apple. Why do you think the highest intelligent life force throughout the universe would warn you? Why would you warn your children? The answer must now be a little clearer, because he wasn't the creator of the apple, or any fruit that all make alcohol, or the hallucinogenic drugs, or the tobacco that destroys us and the Vatican recently invested in. They trick you sickness and disease is punishment from the gods while they invest in products that come from the mind of the devil. How can we conquer evil when religion invests in the devil? All my life, I have always wanted to know why we are the way we are and who or what made us that way. I have always desired to know the truth and always knew there was another way. I believed in Jesus and he revealed himself to me and is now guiding me, and he has taught me how to create a solution that has cured my asthma. All throughout my research, he has been my guide and my tutor, and I grew up in a scientific country following a religion. I was reared a Catholic, but now I believe in neither of these lying, cheating, murderous organizations. I am a follower of the Spirit of Jesus, the torchbearer of the truth and the guide of all truth seekers and healers. Something religion and science know nothing about, as this next clip will prove.
Every disease that I saw in my office over a period of, say, 10 years had a dominant parasite involved. Remember, I was testing everybody for a set of parasites, about 70. I list all the parasites in the book, which ones I was testing for. And to my surprise, if you had diabetes, it would be uretrema, the pancreatic fluke. Pancreatic fluke. Diabetes is a disease of the pancreas.
What about the fluke that you talked about, the Fasciolopsis fluke? How did we get that into our body?
It's in the meat and the dairy industry, except in kosher foods. We were just discovering that kosher food, and this will go into the book still, that kosher dairy products do not have these parasites, which shows you it's a matter of cleanliness.
We now have all the people watching this squirming at home because they all think now, okay, I understand, I have parasites in my body, and we all do, according to your research.
Yes, of course we do.
So according to your research, you've found that all humans have this, and as long as we're healthy, we're okay with it because the body can handle it. My next question to you is, how do we rid ourselves of these tenacious bacteria, parasites, and virus? Do you have an answer to that?
The answer that I came up with already in the first books was the hull of the black walnut tree, but the hull has to be green. There is something in the green hull that kills everything I ever tested for, which doesn't mean everything, but let's say close to 100 parasite varieties.
So you're telling me that in all of our pharmacology, all the millions of dollars spent with research in cancer, the native Indians who were using this hundreds of years ago already had the solution to cancer?
Those who were, yes, but I don't know how much folklore there is around this herbal product. And there are many other good herbal products out there. I'm sure there must be other things that can do the same thing.
But you found this to be the best product.
Yes.
So we have a relationship with two parasites and cancer, Clostridium bacteria,
yes,
and the Fasciolopsis parasite, which you call the fluke.
Yes.
How did we get that?
The Fasciolopsis larval parasite belongs to the malignant development. Clostridium belongs to the premalignant or tumor growth part of the whole process. How do we get them? that has been the subject of my research and what's in the Advanced Cancer book, of course. We eat Clostridium bacteria because they're everywhere in dirt, but we don't get sick from eating Clostridium in dirt. We eat a common little parasite in dirt called rabbit fluke. It has a scientific name too. And that rabbit fluke brings in Clostridium, sort of like the Trojan horse brought in soldiers. They are within. So after eating rabbit fluke with nearly all the food that you think is perfectly safe.
Carrots? Root vegetables?
Raw carrots, yes. Even cooked carrots, yes. Because this parasite, the rabbit fluke, does not get killed by boiling temperatures. We test all the food for our patients for 3 molds: zearalenone, patulin, and aflatoxin. I see those molds, that is the mycotoxins that they make, not the mold, growing mold itself. But the mycotoxins they make are dreadfully toxic, and I always see them in cancer patients right in the tumor. I'm not sure what the significance of that is, but when you find it's a common denominator for tumors, it does make you think it's important.
And where does the patulin mold come from?
Patulin is found in other fruits and plant materials too, but apples is where we get most of it. You can hardly peel an apple without seeing some mold under the peeling, and that will have patulin in it.
Is that what we see in the brown spot?
Yes, that's what the brown spot is. It isn't really a brown spot, it's a moldy spot.
How do you suggest we prepare our fruit, and how should we eat it?
Mostly don't eat it. Peel those fruits. Peel the potatoes, peel the apples, peel the pears, peel the peaches, peel everything, and then you'll be astounded at what you have been eating.
What's your concern with the relationship with the pet and the sick patient?
Pet dander and pet saliva and pet filth gets into everything in the room. I have tested dust from the room of a home where there was a pet, let's say just a cat, much as I love cats, or a dog, and there are ascaris eggs everywhere, and tapeworm eggs everywhere, on the tabletop, on the kitchen counter, on the chairs, anywhere you want to take a dust sample. And why wouldn't there be? Our dander is everywhere, and our germs are everywhere. Why wouldn't theirs be?
And what do these 2 parasites do to the body?
They are very injurious. Ascaris does some of the most damaging things to us, causes our seizures, causes our very many brain disorders.
About 3 or 4 years ago, I guess it was 4 years ago, Lisa started having seizures. The seizures were, they covered pretty much a wide range of different types of seizures. They covered different areas of her body, which to the doctors basically indicated a non-epileptic seizure. She went through EEG, several different doctors. Anyways, I was referred to Dr. Clark. This is when I actually initially heard of her. And treatment she used for seizures, which was black walnut. We tried her on the black walnut after not wanting her to go on other drugs for negative side effects, and the black walnut worked. So
lately we've discovered Dr. Clark's protocol, and we've seen that it's very, very effective.
We are helping people to heal by cancer. Yes, we have several people utilizing the principle by Dr. Clark, the black walnut, the vitamin C, the antioxidation, and the alkalinity diet, the alkalizing diet. And we have found very good results. And people, you know, when you increase the level of electron inside the cell, when you stabilize the cell with the proper fatty acids, when you teach the people how to get better, just avoiding the old mistakes, cancer is no more necessary.
What have you seen so far with working with cancer patients and Dr. Clark's formulas?
Great results, great recoveries, and I can say it because I'm not a medical doctor with my husband, as my husband is, so I can be more sincere with you. And because, you know, medical doctors also in Italy, they have to stay aware of of the government.
So is there a legal problem with saying that you actually cure cancer?
Yes, of course there is. Yes, you cannot say you cure cancer. He was called by the government once, and they told him, you know, Dr. Pamphili, you're very famous, but you must watch out because you cannot say that you cure cancer. And a doctor is more of a writing work, you know, you have to prescribe, you don't have to go on alternative medicine, you don't have to look so far, just, you know, prescribe drugs, don't worry.
Is it your suggestion then that you've already stopped the malignancy so the cancer can't now kill you?
Oh, we do that in the first day.
In the first day?
Yes, we just give a large dose of green black walnut hull.
And what does that do?
That kills the stages, larval stages of the fasciolopsis parasite called the intestinal fluke.
And that's the only single thing that causes malignancy?
That is the only thing that I have found so far over 5 years of studying possibly 2,000 to 3,000 patients.
All cancer?
Yes.
So
there may be other things, and other scientists can search for them, but I haven't found them.
Why have no other researchers found this?
They haven't looked.
That clip proved one of millions of reasons why we were warned not to eat the apple. It was the start on the road to hell of all sickness and disease, including cancer. The apple contains sugar, parabens and yeast, and these are now in all foods, along with colorants or azo dyes.
These azo dyes cause the well-known P53 mutations.
And for those people that don't know what a P53 mutation is?
All tumors, cancerous tumors, are loaded with mutations. This means chromosome breaks and gene mutation.
There is an immutable law which means unchanged by man, a law of the universe that is denied by the science world, and this law is the law of cause and effect, and what you seek you will find, guided by the spirit world that guided Einstein to create the atom bomb, Eve to create the apple, and the Peruvian Indians to create Ayushka, the mother of all hallucinogenic plants. This means that when you discover the cause of disease, you remove it, and the disease will cease. It is why you are warned by the highest intelligent life force in our universe to avoid the apple.
Where does the patulin mold come from?
Patulin is found in other fruits and plant materials too, but apples is where we get most of it. You can hardly peel an apple without seeing some mold under the peeling, and that will have patulin in it.
Is that what we see in the brown spot?
Yes, that's what the brown spot is. It isn't really a brown spot, it's a moldy spot.
How do you suggest we prepare our fruit, and how should we eat it?
Mostly don't eat it.
We are helping people to heal by cancer. Yes, we have several people utilizing the principle by Dr. Clark.
The Vatican do know, as you can see, because the physician to the Pope knew. He was an alpha molecular scientist, a believer in the principles of Hippocrates that teach to clean the cell and feed it nutrients. And he would have told the Pope, John Paul II, but they kept it secret, as they have with many horrific acts that they have committed. Keeping quiet about the apple has allowed cancer to continue, and scientists destroy the cell instead of following the principles of Hippocrates to clean it. Why kill it? Cure it. The Vatican have sold babies and made 20 billion from the sale after stealing them from their mothers. They have experimented on them and they have abused them and then threw their bodies in a cesspit. And anyone that now believes they are true followers of Jesus are insane. Their biggest crime was the biggest religious race hate crime the world has ever witnessed. They fed you the elements from the apple at the altar in so-called honour of Jesus, in the sacraments, that God, the creator of all the good, warned us not to eat, and the elements of the bread his Son, our Saviour, warned us not to eat also, and that clip taught you why. They led to cancer. As I keep saying, Jesus is my guide. and the guide of all truth seekers, and he is guiding people like me to get his message out to the world. Many have gone before me, and sadly great people like Dr. Holder Clark are no longer here. But Jesus is guiding me to all the evidence to show you who these people really are.
Liver cleanse is much underestimated. It should be done a lot more often because it's one of the most important parts of the protocol. Especially cancer patients are highly toxic and they need a liver that's in a good shape to get rid of all these toxins.
Your religious leaders, scientific leaders, and all royalty and world leaders cleanse their livers every 6 months, and that is why they don't get cancers. The apple and the bread contain yeast, and under microscopic inspection it is a mini version of the creator of the apple. Our ancients knew that sugar from the apple and all fruits and root vegetables feeds this entity and all bacteria. Yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, means sugar mold or sugar fungus. Sacro being combining from sugar, myces being fungus. This is proof that this organism or creation grew on the apple and all fruits, because they all contain sugar. This means you have been tricked to allow the devil to infest your world within, and he has now invaded all your minds. Yeast has now secreted itself in all your brains, the control tower of your thoughts. That is why people flooded with alcohol have thoughts of aggression, destruction, even murder. Why would an organisation that alleges to follow Jesus give you the impression alcohol was okay when they used the wine as the blood of Christ? And why would they feed you yeast at the altar? The world fails to see that they have been tricked to worship the devil by the descendants of the Hebrew, who honoured and worshipped the crucified serpent. This is the entity that is behind all altars, that served you elements that came from the mind of the devil, in so-called honour of Jesus in the sacraments, and an organisation that invests in his creations. The sacraments are a reenactment of how Jesus met his end. They ate him and drank his blood, as the Hebrew did in the Old Testament. I know, because as I keep teaching you, I am being guided by Jesus. And when I asked how he met his end, he guided me to a page in a book on the occult that depicts a cannibalistic scene. That is why this organisation have committed every crime on earth, and their biggest crime is keeping the world from the truth. I know that may have shocked many of you, but surely now, with all that I have shown you and what you have witnessed, you must see that this organisation is being guided by the liar, cheat and murderer that Jesus exposed. It will also prove to the world how much love this courageous individual had for all the peoples of the world. Sadly, people have failed to see his warnings, and this is why we have entered the gates of hell once again. It is why Jesus said, Matthew chapter 16 verse 2, when it is evening you say it will be fair weather, for the sky is red, and in the morning it will be stormy today, for the sky is red and threatening. You know how to interpret the appearance of the sky, but you cannot interpret the sign of the times. An evil, adulterous generation seeks for a sign, but no sign shall be given to it except the sign of Jonah. Jonah was a liar, and religion and science are led by lies. Jesus, our Saviour, also warned us twice of yeast. Matthew chapter 16 verse 6. Jesus said to them, take heed and beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Matthew chapter 16 verse 11. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and Sadducees. It is said that they understood this not to beware of the leavened bread, but of the teachings of the Pharisees. This is a lie. I asked, why did he warn his followers of the bread? And I was guided to read this book. And in Dr. Weston Price's book, he teaches that white sugar, the apple in the Bible, and white flour, leaven in the Bible, were the ruination of the Western world. These were the foods brought to the West by the British royal family. He said that after these foods, people suffered severe depression, thoughts of self-mutilation and suicide, and children born after their parents ate these foods were the complete opposite in nature to their siblings born before. He also said children born after suffered severe skeletal structural deformity, as we are now witnessing in Ireland and across Europe once again. Dr. Price also discovered that those that only ate the foods of the empire got the same diseases as the white man, and one of those diseases was TB. Science will tell you that TB is an airborne disease, and if this was the case, how did Dr. Price only find that those Aborigines that ate the foods of the empire got it, and not any of the others? He also discovered that when he returned them to their native foods, that were mainly vegetables, they cured themselves of disease. It was because the vegetables contained all the elements the body needs to fight disease and bacteria, all the elements from the sea, which we find in sea salt, that create alkalinity in the body and neutralize the acids or toxins. Elements like calcium, potassium, sodium, and magnesium. While researching Dr. Weston Price, I was being drawn back to this book time and time again, and I knew our Saviour wanted to tell me something, and I kept reading over and over, the only ones to get TB were the only ones to eat the foods of the empire. The foods were white sugar and the leaven. I also had sayings ringing in my ear that other books taught me, one from Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. He said, you don't catch sickness, you eat it. And I also had the saying, you are what you eat, ringing in my ears, and the message from our Saviour, beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. He wouldn't let me go until I understood what he was saying, but when all the pieces were together, I knew what he was teaching me and why he warned his disciples to beware of the leaven of the Pharisees. This is how we are guided in this world, and how the secret works. Once you understand, you can receive the message. But you need to understand that the answers to what you are looking for are all around you. TB is a bacterial disease, and all bacteria thrive and survive on sugar, as your ancients knew. God, the creator of all the good, warned us of the apple that has 5 spoonfuls of sugar, and this feeds yeast. And our Saviour warned us of the bread because of diseases like TB. This is why he wouldn't let me go until I had the answer. The Dr. Helder Clark interview taught me that the apple was the cause of cancer and spread the first virus in us, yeast, as our ancients knew. The interview also taught me that the American Indians had a cure for cancer, and the world knows they were guided by the spirit world, but not the ones that are now guiding their government. That is why they used to shoot the messenger, and why they executed Jesus, to keep you from the truth, as the American government are now doing.
Telling me that in all of our pharmacology, all the millions of dollars spent with research in cancer, the native Indians who were using this hundreds of years ago already had the solution to cancer.
Those who were, yes.
That is why they said that white man speaks with forked tongue, but now it must be a little clearer which white men they were referring to, the white men that brought religion and science to the Western world, that now control the American government, that control the European Union. They are descendants of the British Empire.
My name is Sergeant Rick Schiff. I'm an 11-year veteran of the San Francisco Police Department. I hold the department's highest Medal of Honor for bravery. That used to mean a lot more to me than it does now. What I'd like to talk to you about today is my now 7-year-old daughter. This is an identical twin. Her sister is now dead. Her sister, when she was 4 years old, Kristen, developed a highly malignant brain tumor that had spread throughout her spine and her brain. The doctors told us that we had really 2 options: take her home, let her die, or bring her in for massive dosages of chemo and radiation simultaneously. In either event, she was going to die. They were quite certain of that, and very quickly. Believing her only chance to be the standard route, we gave her the chemo and radiation. It burned her skull so bad she had 2nd-degree burns and her hair never came back. To change her diapers, we had to wear rubber gloves because her urine was so toxic and it burnt her. At the end of 6 months, miraculously, she survived the standard treatment, although there was a high expectation she wouldn't. She still had cancer. We were told, sorry, we've done everything we can. Now she's going to die, probably within a couple of months. My wife and I, choosing not to accept that, started reading. The first book I picked up, the 3rd chapter, discussed Dr. Brzezinski. As you may guess, I have some expertise in fraud. In fact, I'm quite certain there are enough attorneys in the room that I could be vordeered as an expert in fraud. And I conducted my own investigation. I have no doubt the man is not a fraud. I have no doubt that he does what he does out of earnest belief that his medicine works. And now you're in a position to judge for yourselves whether it works or not. But it's well established by the FDA that it's non-toxic. 18 months later, we took my daughter off the anti-neoplastin. She had not died. She had no signs of tumor. She remained free for 18 months of cancer. Within a month, the cancer was widespread in her brain. We put her back on Brzezinski's. By the way, at the objections of our doctors, for some reason felt that it had failed her. We put her back on. Within 9 weeks, the tumor was completely gone. She died last July of neurological necrosis. Her brain fell apart from the radiation. The autopsy showed that she was completely cancer-free. Out of 52 cases of that disease ever, no one died cancer-free, just Chrissy. So she didn't die of a terminal illness. She died of my inability to care for her properly, and she died from bad advice. She died because there's a government institution that disseminates false information and is not looking out for the welfare of the people. You know, ladies and gentlemen, I swore an oath 11 years ago, and I think most of us in this room swore it at one time or another, to uphold the Constitution. It says life right in the beginning.
That clip also showed that the American government are also keeping quiet about the cancer cure, and American science now leads the world, a system founded on a lie.
Well, oddly enough, I was on the staff of UCLA back in the 60s, and I gave the first class at UCLA because one of my jobs at UCLA was to develop the curriculum for the new students coming aboard and also the dental school itself. And so I was fortunate to give the first lecture on mercury fillings that the students had. And in my research, I uncovered that mercury was a concern. In fact, in 1848, it was considered illegal to use mercury, unethical. The then union of dentistry was the American College of Dental Surgeons, and it was like the analogous to the ADA. And that group of bodies said it was illegal or unethical to use mercury because of its toxic concerns. But then there was no alternative that was able to be used. So dentists got together and began using mercury fillings because it was more economical. And indeed, there was a serious problem because what are you going to use? You can't use gold. Most people couldn't afford gold, and even the gold techniques were not refined as they are today. So there was no option, no alternative. So this group of dentists began to use mercury fillings, and that group grew and became the American Dental Association. So the American Dental Association has had its formation on the utilization of mercury fillings, which is ironic, of course. Body of evidence that would say, hey, you're using this potentially lethal material, while dentists were teaching, and I was one of the ones who were taught, who then taught that mercury was inert when you mixed with silver, tin, zinc, and copper, of which consists of the mercury filling or the amalgam or the silver filling. It's really a mercury filling because 50% of it's mercury. And if you mix it with silver, tin, zinc, and copper, we taught that it was inert, which is a scientific impossibility because everything by the laws of entropy is in the process of decay. And in the case of the dental mercury filling, the decay is quite prominent. In fact, in the average mouth, we might find sometimes 26 different metals in the mouth, which again not only is a biocompatible problem with toxicities, but the electronics. This has been a fascinating field for us. In the last 15 years, we've been doing electronic readings by using an amp meter, a more sophisticated digital amp meter. Well, if we have teeth now that have metal in their mouth that are constantly generating electricity, and by the way, our car battery is a lead pole and a zinc pole and a box of sulfuric acid, right? If we wanted to create the quintessential battery, we would use gold and silver, the cathode and the anode, the positive and the negative pole, which can create a wonderful battery. Well, we do this in the mouth. So tremendous amounts of electricity can disturb the normal flow of ionic flow in the body. So if you've got a constant flow of electricity created by the metal fillings in our mouth, we can...
Their science tricked us that sugar was a nutrient. A nutrient is vital for the growth of an organism, and the only organism that sugar feeds is yeast, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, a mini version of the devil, the first spreader of cancer and all disease in our body, the world inside us all. Sugar also rots teeth.
If we read the back of many toothpaste that are available today in the grocery store, it says if we should swallow more than what you could fit on the end of the toothbrush, call poison control immediately.
A lot of silicone in toothpaste, and silicone is absorbed, taken in by the white blood cells, and white blood cells become disabled by it. Now, and that's called low immunity, immune dysfunction. Coming from your toothpaste, that's awful.
That clip shows their advice to cure us does more harm to our cells, and their medicines for cancer destroy cells, good and bad. This is why Hippocrates and other healers throughout the ages have taught us to clean the cell and then feed it the nutrients, not feed it disease-causing cancerous elements and then kill it. It's just an excuse to destroy you. Inside all of you are living, breathing cells, and their knowledge is destroying them, which leads to your destruction. It is as the front of this book teaches. They believe that the serpent is the font of all knowledge, and why their religion also tricked you that the apple tree is the font of all knowledge. This is to trick you that the devil created this world. He didn't, he invaded it, and it is why American scientists are tricking the world that our first brain was reptilian. A reptile is a snake, one of many versions of the devil. This entity first entered our minds in the apple, then the bread served at the altar, and this led to all disease, including cancer, covered up by the Vatican and America, that both use science. The native Indians were right. Some men do speak with forked tongue. Sadly, Danny passed away, but he never died from cancer. It was from a botched operation. He was a lovely, simple man, and he kindly allowed me to use his elements in my solution. I interviewed Danny, and he was a really lovely man, and like me, he wanted to help people, and only charged a minimal fee to cover his costs. He was also a seeker of the truth, a seeker of knowledge, and he discovered the pharmaceutical industry carried out tests in the 70s to see if they could make a powder or a tablet from wheatgrass. They couldn't, so they advised growers to grow it wrong, but Danny knew instantly the way it was grown was wrong, and he grew it his way. He told me that when he took it, he instantly knew it was working, and like me, he knew you couldn't cure overnight. It would take time. It took Danny 4 to 5 months, but it cured him, and that is why Hippocrates taught us that healing was a matter of time, but it's sometimes also a matter of opportunity. This is why we were taught patience is a virtue. Have faith and you will be healed, but be patient. Using the knowledge I have received from Jesus, I have learned how to trap the elements of Danny's wheatgrass in my solution. I also have the American Indians remedy, and a remedy used by the Hunza tribe from the northwestern province of Pakistan that never had cancer in their 900-year history. They ate apricot kernels. So far, I have shown you Dr. Holder Clark, who used the American Indians' cure, the American police officer that taught of Brzezinski's water. I showed you Danny, the Donegal farmer, and I taught you of the Hunza tribe. And I have also cured myself of asthma and cured people of other ailments. We have all found a cure because it is as the hidden message teaches. Whatever you desire, when you pray, believe that you will receive them and you shall have them.
So
There may be other things, and other scientists can search for them, but I haven't found them.
why have no other researchers found this?
They haven't looked.
Seek and you will find, as Jesus taught you. Danny and I, two ordinary people, found a cure for our disease. So who are these people, and who is guiding them?
Along the riverbank are special sites where a natural remedy can be found. These parrots are here for the same reason as the macaws, the healing qualities of the clay. This special mud neutralizes the toxins they've acquired through a less than perfect diet. The clay not only settles their stomachs, it also works as a vitamin pill, providing sodium and calcium supplements. Butterflies are after the same minerals that attract the macaws. They, in turn, provide a snack for the sun bittern. She uses the salty mud as a dipping sauce. It also helps them slip down more easily. This is the busy season at the clay lick. In the jungle, everyone is continually on edge. But it's
The spirit world does not only guide humans, they guide all creatures to heal, as that clip showed, and the animals knew what Dr. Panfili taught.
The vitamin C, the antioxidation, and the alkalinity diet, the alkalizing diet. And we have found
Calcium and sodium are alkaline. Surely now you must be realizing there are two sides to this story of life, truth and lies. Something is guiding those that want to heal, even the animals. That clip shows many different animals with the same mindset. They knew the clay would heal them. They cannot communicate with each other, they speak different languages, but their guide speaks many. It is his will, on earth as it is in heaven, thy will be done. His will guides us to safety, to find the truth, and to cure all our disease. How comes you, the so-called intelligent species, cannot find a cure like them? And how comes you don't know the truth? There are no pharmacies in nature, only natural foods provided for by nature. So why did the Vatican own a pharmaceutical company? And why did they allow experiments to be carried out on innocent little orphans? But you must now also discover that there are some things in nature that didn't come from the mind of the creator of all the good in nature. The elements mentioned in that clip, calcium and sodium, are found in sea salt. It is basic physiology, which is the study of the body. Calcium is needed for the central nervous system to function properly, and sodium is what we use for energy. They are tricking you. Sugar gives you energy and caffeine, but this book teaches up-and-coming scientists and doctors that caffeine causes stomach ulcers, and ulcers lead to cancer. It also affects the child in the womb and slows the person's instinct for survival. As I keep teaching you, my guide is Jesus, and he has got me to research everything, and I mean everything. He was a very wise man, and to become wise you must research many subjects. They will trick you. Sugar gives you energy, but all sugar comes from the apple, and as you now know, feeds fungus. That is why they give you a saline drip after every operation, not a sugary one. Sea salt kills all bacteria, and sugar allows it to grow. Your ancestors knew this, but they denied you this, and they are the real truth deniers, because the liar, cheat, and murderer is the guide of science. Alkaline is saline, and we used to get this from our vegetables, the green vegetables that doctors are now telling the Irish not to eat. Once they said too much water was bad and that too much salt was bad, but you fail to understand the messages. Where do you think the expression salts of the earth come from? And why did Hippocrates teach to eat the foods of the soil, not supermarkets? Where did the saying you are worth your weight in salt, not gold, as they tricked you to believe, come from? Can you eat gold when you are hungry? Can you drink it to quench your thirst? All their physiology manuals teach that water is vital for life. And can their gold, which is now money, cure you when you are sick and dying? The only thing that will save you is the truth, the knowledge of true seekers, and those that have healed, because they are being guided by the torchbearer of the truth and light, the healer, Jesus our Saviour. The tsunami is more proof of his guidance. The animals of the wild left the area long before the disaster struck, but the so-called intelligent species of the planet stayed there until they were engulfed by the wave. This is because the animals, like the birds in the clip, are guided by nature to eat the foods provided by the creator of all the good in nature, but man is fed the foods provided by science that receives its knowledge from the devil, and man now eats his foods, and that is why he has lost touch with the creator and protector. All the remedies I have shown you have been in nature for as long as we have needed them, and the religious leaders know how to use them because all churches once had herbal gardens. It was how they made their so-called holy water after they made you sick by poisoning you at the altar. This is what Brzezinski's water is and what my solution is. Hippocrates taught that food, occupation and climate were major factors in the cause of disease. He said if we could give the individual the right amount of nourishment and exercise, not too little and not too much, we would have found the safest way to health. He also said, foolish the doctor that despises the knowledge from the ancients. They do follow the ancients, but not ours. They follow the Hebrew. That is why the world is on an endless cycle of war, hatred and revenge, sickness and disease. Hippocrates taught us that food that was nutritional was vital for our survival and maintaining health. But then science came along and twisted everything and started teaching that we need food for energy and to keep warm. They brought the apple, the bread, and then the potato. This was a food provided for by the British Empire to my ancestors, the Irish, by the lords of the British Queen, whose ancestors brought the apple to the West. The apple allowed fungus to grow inside you, and the potato allowed fungus to grow in the soil, which eventually led to crop failure. Following their science will soon allow another famine to fall upon Ireland and the world. The British were in control of Ireland during the last famine, and the truth was never told. Jesus is warning me by continually leading me back to the book of Ruth, which starts with a warning. Now it came to pass, when the judges ruled, famine fell upon the land. I showed you earlier how he taught me why he warned us of their bread. People of Ireland, be warned. The first thing this current Taoiseach did was to promote a judge to the highest court and then invite the British royalty to Ireland. You witness what sugar does, but fail to see all sugars originally come from the apple, carbohydrates and starch in the potato, both brought to the West by the British Empire, an empire of science. Their science said it was bacteria, Phytophthora infestans, that caused the famine. But bacteria will not grow without the right environment, and part of that environment is food, and sugar is food for all fungus and bacteria. They are now spraying slurry on your land, and slurry is full of bacteria, and they say they can remove the bacteria from the slurry without harming the environment. This is a lie, because if they can, then why can't they remove the bacteria from you? They are now teaching that you are made up of the same elements as the world around you, and that includes the environment. Therefore, if they can remove the bacteria from the slurry without harming the environment, then they can do the same to you. Are they keeping bacteria in you to make money, or are they lying about the removal of bacteria or the harm to the soil? Evidence shows their toxins are lethal. 300,000 Americans die each year because of the wrong prescription of drugs or the over prescription of drugs. Either way, they shouldn't kill, and this will prove that their toxins are rapidly destroying the earth, which means another famine is on its way. As I taught you earlier, they do honour and worship the devil, and they believe that the cause of all our disease will be the cure. Hippocrates also said, whenever a doctor cannot do good, he must be kept from doing harm. When you are taught by a liar, or you believe a liar, as all university students do, then you are a danger to the rest of society. Our world will only change when people in it accept that what they do or know is a lie. People of Ireland, you must now ask, what are the current Taoiseach's intentions? He promoted a judge to the highest court and is thinking of inviting the Queen. Who is he? They are soon to implement a law in Ireland, a diversity law, that will allow all the misfits in all societies across Europe to descend on Ireland. They want to lower the age of consensual sex, and this will allow paedophilia to be accepted in Ireland. They have already tricked you to accept gay marriage. You were warned of the apple because it was a sex drug, and the world fails to remember that America released LSD on their unsuspecting public. LSD created promiscuity and homosexuality, and now they have MSG, a food-based drug like LSD, because these people believe that experimenting on you to make money is the way of their God. There is now a drug called cannibal that made an American think it was okay to eat the face off another individual. How did that get into society? Alcohol and marijuana make some people murder, and you now know which mind they come from. This is how the world is controlled, by the individual's own mind. There is now a cocktail of drugs in your foods that will soon bring cannibalism back into our world. All the mind-body diseases and disorders I mentioned earlier have always followed these people, including cannibalism. They tricked the world as a freak of human nature, the same they said about homosexuality. But now the world must see that they are freaks of science, as all disease is. American science now controls Europe, and you have been tricked to put your lives back in the hands of the British Empire, because the American government are descendants of the British. This current Taoiseach has now insulted all our brave and gallant ancestors and urinated all over their graves by inviting the British royalty to Ireland. The last time famine fell upon Ireland, the Muslims sent 3 shiploads of foods, but the Queen's ancestors refused them. They also sent £10,000, and the Queen of the day said they could only send 1,000. Then, when the word got back, people were dying horrific deaths. She said, let them eat cake. Your history shows that the British caused the Northern Ireland crisis, which led to the terror being spread to the streets of Britain. And now they are facing the same crisis once again, after first spreading terror to the streets of the Muslims. History does not repeat itself. The same group of people keep repeating history. Another group of people that came to the rescue of the people of Ireland during the famine were the American Choctaw Indians, and now you can see why they said, white man speaks with forked tongue. Not all white men, only the ones that control the Vatican, Britain, the European Union, and America. America is calling the Muslims terrorists, but the world fails to see they caused the war because of a lie, and because of their lies, People are dying all over the world. What is more terrifying, to be force-fed foods that cause diseases like cancer and then to be told there are no cures when there are? Then to be forced to take medicines that make matters worse and even in some cases kill people. All because these people are protected by the law, a law that caused the Iraq War that led to worldwide terror. When the European Union was formed, a union controlled by science, they flooded the foods with sugar, parabens and yeast, all elements from the apple. Romans chapter 14, verse 15. If your brother is being injured by what you eat, you are no longer walking in love. Do not let what you eat cause the ruin of one for whom Christ died. The British Queen should know her ancestors executed him and doctored the Bible many times, and they allowed the apple to grow in our world. They are descendants of Adam and Eve, the two that bore the Hebrew, that brought the Kabbalah to the world. They also accuse Russia of rigging their elections, and the world fails to see that their banks bankrupted every country, and then their businesses bought up European companies. They also brought their companies to Europe and paid no tax, allowing them to get a stranglehold of Europe. American business controls American government, and what Europeans fail to see is that American business now controls the European Union. The reunification of the Holy Roman Empire, as Nostradamus referred to it. That is why all the diseases I taught you in the beginning are now spreading throughout our world, a world of science, American science. Blind faith in your leaders will get you killed.
This could be the first generation of children in the United States that lives less than its parents.
I got 2 pills I take for my diabetes, then I got 1 for cholesterol, high blood pressure, and then I take Byetta, which is an injectable.
I'm getting really shaky and I'm sick and I'm fatigued, and that's when they diagnosed me with hypertension and diabetes.
Obesity, diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure cost this country more than $120 billion each year.
People are saying, you're crazy. You're a cancer patient. You should be resting. Doctors told me this. When I had the second heart attack, the doctor said I should prepare for death.
Heart disease is an absolutely toothless paper tiger that need never, ever exist.
People who were raised in Japan, the Philippines, Korea, China, never had heart disease, prostate cancer, colon cancer, breast cancer, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple sclerosis.
This is the atlas of cancer mortality in China.
Virtually, the Western diet was non-existent. They had no animal products. They had no dairy, no meat.
We learned that we could turn on and turn off cancer growth just by adjusting the level of intake of that protein.
I knew at that point what caused most diseases.
Our national authorities are simply excluding this concept in order to protect the status quo.
With the Western diet, there are going to be 500,000 people in this country this year who will have to have the front half of their body divided, their heart exposed. Some people would call that extreme.
I know of nothing else in medicine that can come close to what a plant-based diet could do.
If you go through life thinking that what happens to you from a health perspective is based on your genes, you're a helpless victim.
I reversed the diabetes. The diabetes is not coming back.
I just can't understand what it's done to change my life.
Diet is so much more important than anybody ever thought.
To me, the answer is so simple, it's criminal. And it's just people starting to take responsibility for their health and starting to eat more plant-based foods. It's that simple.
That clip was from a brilliant documentary, Forks Over Knives, that taught that the people that never had a meat or dairy diet never caught any type of cancer or heart disease. But you fail to heed the warnings. You also probably wouldn't believe what you just saw because you have been programmed to believe there are no cures. Why are the scientists now tricking us that we need a meat diet after they have been allowed to genetically modify the vegetables? The lies about sugar should have been a warning, but your useless, good-for-nothing, money-worshipping, low-life, immoral, devil-worshipping governments left it in and raised their salary, especially all the TDs in Ireland. You have had many meat warnings, but every time it's discovered, your food providers are protected by the law, and they always blame someone else. People of Ireland, they said the discovery of the meat scandal raised in Ireland was a spot check, but it was the will of the spirit world guiding the scientists to unearth what they were doing. The suppliers were blamed, and this was exposed while Labour was in power, and they are sponsored by that supermarket. The last time they were in power in Ireland was in 1930 to 36 with Fianna Fáil. That was when the experiments were allowed to be carried out on the Irish orphans, allowed to by the Vatican. Recently, while in power with Fine Gael, they changed the chemicals in your foods, your water, your medicine. They changed the rule of law, your education, and now your religion. This article teaches that 20 French scientists were arrested in December 2014 for injecting meat at a laboratory run by a pharmaceutical company. The meat was then sold illegally abroad, including Britain, and the supermarket that was caught in the middle of the meat scandal controlled all the meat and dairy products of Britain and Ireland. French Consumer Affairs Minister Benoît Hamon said there was a major risk to public health. History shows the French elite have experimented on the people before. A poisoning affair which disturbed France between 1679 and 1682. More than 400 people were implicated. These 400 were secret society members, members of nobility, the so-called elite. These are the people that brought science to the Western world. This is a compilation of CDs from a seminar given by breakaway members of a secret society of America known as the Brotherhood. It teaches that CJD was deliberately caused, and it could also prove that Ebola came from similar experiments. The Europe-wide meat scandal was blamed on a supplier, and the bacteria-infested chickens was blamed on the wrapping that took 14 years to solve. This was kept secret by the British Food Standards Authority, an organisation that is meant to be there to protect people, just like their science is meant to be there to protect and cure people, but all they keep telling you is there are no cures, and they keep the truth from you. All the evidence I have shown you is that the foods that they feed you and the animals that have chemicals in them that allow bacteria to grow. But you fail to see the warnings and question God, the creator of all the good, and his courageous Son that warned you not to eat their foods. Now, because of all your useless, good-for-nothing, immoral, money-worshipping governments, their empire has expanded, and they are now the only food providers. Britain brought science to the world, so you would think their scientists would protect their people and not cover up a serious infestation of bacteria for 14 years. This bacteria cannot be killed by the stomach acids. Therefore, it will eat away at the stomach lining, and this will lead to leaky gut and also bowel problems, leaky bowels. These people know that when they get caught, the law will protect them or their friends in high places. But let me warn them, I am being guided by someone far higher than anyone they know. And if they don't change their ways, trust me, they will be following the snake on the other side. People of Ireland, the pharmaceutical company caught injecting the meat now supply your medicines. And be warned again, the judge that your Taoiseach promoted was employed by the Labour Party. It is, as I said in the beginning, history doesn't repeat itself, but the same group of people keep repeating history, and they have not changed who they worship or the superhuman being they follow, or their experiments that were allowed by the Vatican before the Second World War, and now by all governments. Their religion and science have tricked the world to worship the devil, and that is why after they executed the truth, the world has lived a lie. Their ancestors executed Jesus and blamed you for your sins, but you must now see tobacco, alcohol, and hallucinogenic drugs like marijuana cause you to sin. As I said, they insanely believe they are on a quest for God, and they also believe that their God has curative powers. That is why they are using nicotine, sugar, caffeine, and marijuana in their medicines. But the worst defilement of all is soon to come, as this article in a scientific magazine teaches. They are trialing snake's venom. How much more evidence do you need? I watched a program on archaeology recently. It was a study of prehistoric remains, and this program revealed how many people died during Viking times, another empire. Using excrement they unearthed, they discovered that their diet was flooded with bacteria, ascaris. Is this a case of history repeating itself? The evidence is all around you.
The pet and the sick patient.
Pet dander and pet saliva and pet filth gets into everything in the room. I have tested dust from the room of a home where there was a pet, let's say just a cat, much as I love cats, or a dog, and there are ascaris eggs everywhere, and tapeworm eggs everywhere, on the tabletop, on the kitchen counter, on the chairs, anywhere you want to take a dust sample.
They should know, because history shows that many of our ancestors died because they kept their animals in the house with them. People of Ireland, I grew up in Britain, and many of them kept dogs, and many of them were very sick and ill and depressed. And now the psychologists from the Labour Party taught you that having a dog helps with depression. Your foods cause depression. Take the badness out of the foods and your depression will heal, and you won't need a dog or any other pet that will also bring disease upon you. Be warned, their antibacterial drugs or any drugs don't work. This will give them credence to keep trialing snake's venom. These people have wiped out many races of people with their foods before that feed fungus, or they are flooded with bacteria, as all recent headlines teach. Ascaris is what caused my asthma, so I can remove this from the body because I cured my asthma. The people of those times died quite horrifically, the same way many of our Irish ancestors died during the famine. Bacteria escaped through every hole in their body. Their bodies became so infested that the bacteria forced their way out of every exit after eating them alive from the inside out. When you understand toxicology, microbiology, and all the warnings throughout history, you see it is soon to be repeated once again if you fail to heed the warnings.
What about the fluke that you talked about, the fasciolopsis fluke? How did we get that into our body?
It's in the meat and the dairy industry, except in kosher foods. We were just discovering that kosher food, and this will go into the book still, that kosher dairy products do not have these parasites, which shows you it's a matter of cleanliness.
How can they keep their foods clean, free of bacteria, and sell you infested meats in supermarkets they own, and advise you that there is good in bacteria when their foods contain none? There is truth and lies, and they said they were followers of the truth. So why do they avoid yeast, as Jesus warned us, and flood your foods with this entity? In order to achieve health and happiness, we need to eat the right foods, the foods of the soil that Hippocrates taught, and the green vegetables that the Bible teaches. In the beginning, we were all vegetarian, and that clip about plant-based diets proved that man can survive without meat. Vegetables have now been genetically modified, and they was once before by Darwin and now once again by Monsanto, a scientific organisation originally from Britain that brought science to the world. How can our world achieve what Jesus wanted for us, a world of peace, love, harmony, health and happiness, when we are forced once again to follow the descendants of the children of hell? Jesus warned us of their foods. He threw their money tables in the air and said it would be easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle than a rich man into heaven. And he also said a lawyer was more impervious to the gates of heaven, further away than a rich man. He also warned of the 4 headless horsemen of the apocalypse. They are now here. They are pestilence, which is sickness and disease, caused by foods, that is now everywhere, including cancer, and only 4 companies control the food's production and distribution for 90% of the world, as these books taught me. War is another horseman. The Iraq War, caused by the lies and spies from one group of people and the British lawmen. Death is another, which is everywhere because of the disease and war and the recession that stops people from being able to pay for their medicines. The Antichrist is also here. He is British, the liar that caused the Iraq War and annihilated 1 million innocent Muslims. The last one is famine. It's on its way, as Jesus is warning me, but we can stop it. We must stop them spraying slurry on our soil and spray seawater instead. People of Ireland, these scumbags are renovating old ruins all over Ireland with your hard-earned tax money instead of investing in helping the sick and needy. This entire Irish establishment are the worst in your entire history, and if you do not stop them, then a horrific event that your ancestors faced will soon be upon you. Jesus is screaming at me to warn you. You must stop them spraying slurry now, before it is too late and the famine is upon you. I beg you to hear me. Sea salt is how you must all now cleanse your body, which will purify your mind, body and spirit. You put half a spoonful of sea salt in a pint glass of water and drink 1 pint morning, noon and night. This will create a saline solution in your body, and this is what Jesus taught the people of Roman times and why they eventually paid their workers in salt, and it is where that expression, your worth, your weight in salt, comes from, and the word salary comes the word for salt, sal. Natural forces within us are our true healers of disease, as Hippocrates taught us, but some natural products come from the mind of the devil, the controller of the forces of darkness, as the story of the apple teaches. These are the foods that contain sugars and elements of the apple, which are now in all supermarket foods. I am a child of the light, and many like me have come to bring you home, but I can only save the ones that believe me. That is why in traditional Christianity, the perennial, everlasting, ever-flowing and unceasing philosophy was that the way of happiness and the way to salvation were to be not sought in the external environment, but in the individual state of mind with regard to the environment. It all starts with your belief. Sugar destroys your mind, Antichrist, and the atom bomb destroys the environment, Antichrist. To believe in their science will now make all of you Antichrist. That is why Jesus once said, you cannot worship 2 gods. It is why your ancients followed diatheism in the West, the belief in 2 equal gods, and so did the people of the East, Zoroastrianism. But then they built the Holy Roman Empire and the Vatican and spoke of only one God, the God that they follow. And that is why the world is now back in the times of the Hebrew. War, hatred and revenge, sickness and disease.
Gesù è uno spirito. Gesù non è uno spirito. Gesù è una persona, è un uomo.
How can he speak such profanity? Not sacred, not inspired, not initiated into sacred or esoteric rites or knowledge. Secular. Prophet, a person who foretells future events, especially under divine inspiration. A revealer or interpreter of the divine will, the will of God. A religious leader, a founder of a religion, a preacher or a teacher of a cause. Jesus was an interpreter of the message from the creator of all the good in our universe, and he is now guiding me. Interpret, to explain the meaning of, to find out the meaning of. Who does this Pope speak for? John, chapter 4, verse 21 to 26. The true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit. So by the Pope's own words, he is not a true worshipper of God. He is using very subtle manipulation on the people who don't fully understand what he is saying, but accept what he is saying because they look up to him or idolize him, because he is the Pope, and they foolishly believe that he won't lie or deceive or trick them. they believe that he is a follower of Jesus, but from his own words, you would think that he is the successor to Jesus. This cannot be passed off as a slip of his reptilian tongue, because the Pope studies the Bible and everything to do with religion and Jesus. He must know of the Nag Hammadi Gospels. This book about the assassination of Pope Paul I teaches that the Vatican once owned a pharmaceutical company. Assassinations are the traits of the builders of the American Empire. These people annihilated 100 million American Indians. They hunted them down like savages, and the British did the same to my ancestors. They tested all their weapons on my defenseless people. The Vatican also hunted down many of my ancients, the Gnostics, the true followers of Jesus. They have continually attempted to silence the truth. That is why the history of America that is now in their control mirrors the history of the Vatican, as this book on the history of the Vatican teaches. This is a book they attempted to ban, and they built their religious empire after burning a book which Jesus wrote, and then burnt all his followers. They kill the body, but the spirit will never die. So how can the Pope say that Jesus was just a man and not a spirit? America are now spreading a new religion, secularism, that they say will bring peace to our world, after they caused most wars with their battle cry, God bless America. That is why the Pope is using subtle manipulation by tricking you that Jesus was not a spirit. This was the belief of the Sadducees during the reign of Jesus, and now the belief of secularists. Jesus did warn us they would traverse land and sea to make one a proselyte like them. Proselyte, a new convert to some religion, party or system, especially a gentle convert to Judaism, and secularism has its roots in Judaism. This doesn't really sound like Jesus has taken to these people, or that they have changed, but they are changing you via your mind, via the chemicals in your foods, water, alcohol, medicines, and all other creations of science. Sadducee means a member of a sect among the Jews arising in the 2nd century BC, who adhered to the written law to the exclusion of tradition and denied the resurrection from the dead, existence of spirits. This is what secularism is tricking you to do, and when you deny spirits, how do you think you will be saved? People of Ireland, your government are secular and are soon to enforce it upon you. That is why your current Taoiseach promoted a judge. Secularism was founded by George Jacob Holyoake, who was Jewish. He was editor of the atheist paper Oracle of Reason. An atheist is a non-believer, and this is what secularism is. And soon they will try to make the whole world like them a proselyte, which in modern times is a secularist. America goes around the world destroying it in so-called quest for peace, and then they blame religion and are soon to trick the world that changing religion will solve all problems. Secular, over relating to the present world as to things not spiritual or sacred, not ecclesiastical or monastic, not concerned with religion. The belief that religion should not be taught in school or not be part of education, but the world fails to see that science is also their religion. George Washington became president in 1879, and his ideology was theosophy. Theosophy, a form of speculation, mysticism, or philosophy aiming at the knowledge of God by means of intuition and contemplative illumination, or by direct communion, a system founded in the US in 1875, which claims to show the unity of all religions in their esoteric teaching, manifested by occult phenomena. This occult phenomena is the Kabbalah. This is why the British, American, and the Vatican are now attempting to force secularism on the world. This is predicted in the book of Revelations, but their biggest secret is the God who they are in direct commune with. The fact that they have all used science must now be proof. The truth is always out there, and they fail to silence it, because the truth will never die. People of Ireland, you must stop your children from learning science. It is the language of hell, and your country is now in their control. A liar will always lie, a cheat will always cheat, and a murderer will always murder until they are caught. But these people are always caught, and they are protected by the law. All your good-for-nothing, immoral, useless, low-life Money-worshipping governments follow the rule of law. This system brought to the world by the British Empire has always allowed them to silence the truth. They lied to get 1 million Muslims executed, they lied to cause the recession, and they lied about the poisons in your foods. Sugar is your warning, and they are lying about the toxins on your earth. The law was used to trick you to accept gay marriage. They have tricked you to change your mind, and you fail to see that God's mind hasn't changed. He is the truth, and they don't speak it. Religion is a lie, science is a lie, and the law is a lie, because they were all brought to the West by the ones that executed the truth. All your royalty and their relations and their friends in all these societies. They are the original truth deniers, and they have now made all of you like them. Very powerful manipulation when you allow one group of people to control everything, including your racist press. These people must be stopped, but however you do it, you must not exact revenge. This is the way of their God, and you must do it peacefully, the way of Jesus. Our world will never be the way that He wants for us, while religion and science are in it. He came to teach you of a way, not some dogmatic, ritualistic bullshit, and He certainly never taught science. You must now see that your religious leaders and scientific leaders have used very subtle but very powerful manipulation on you. Their new religion will remove talk of the spirit world, and when you remove the light from the world, it will soon descend back into the dark, the time of the Roman Empire and all other empires before. Jesus is also here to expose them, as I keep teaching you, but you fail to see Him or even believe that He is there. He has always been there for you, but your religious leaders, scientific leaders, royal leaders, and now governments follow the other guide.
Oscar Tango 06. Oscar Tango 06. And up. Yeah, Tango 06, I am behind this vehicle now, lane 2. I've got the other vehicle behind me. Do you want to go ahead? Go ahead of me. I'll try and put a stop on and see if we can get it off. Yeah, stand by. See if we can do a bit of a 2-car box. Get it onto the hard shoulder. Stand by. Yeah, Roger. I am behind it now. It's lane 2. Still M1 northbound. At the moment, she is failing to stop. Stand by. Hey, just for the traffic car. She does look extremely ill. Give information on it. Yeah, Roger. I'm trying to helicopter it. Give you some advice. Oscar Tango 01. Tango 01. You expect motor first? Yeah, I know we're about to get the boat away and get down. Thank you. Yes, thanks. Okay, we'll let the knots know what's cracking off, so we'll be getting close to their area. Yes, the Tango 06, seatback chained authorised, suitable vehicle. At the moment, the vehicle is failing to stop. Female driver, it's 30 miles per hour. Light traffic, the other mobile's got a rolling road behind me anyway. It's low risk. When we've got over the seatback resource, we'll see if we can do it. We'll see if we do a 2-car box. I'm going to try, while I've got quite a bit of barrier, see if I can get her stopped. She's all over the place. I'm just worried if she runs out of barrier, she could end up off the motorway completely. Yeah, Roger, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. I'm going to try that now. Stand by. Yeah,
That clip was of an incident on a motorway in Britain late in 2016. The woman behind the wheel of the car was unconscious, facing the inside of the roof of her car when the police got to her. There was a baby in the back seat, and anyone that drives will know that when you go one way, to get the car to go another way, you must steer it, guide it. Something guided that car to safety. Something guided the animals away from the tsunami. Something guided the animals to the healing clay. Something guided the American Indians to a cure for cancer. Something guided Dr. Holder Clark to find that cure for cancer. Something guided the American police officer to find a cure for his child. Something guided the Hunter tribe to a cure for cancer. Something guided Danny to cure his cancer. Something guided me to the truth. The writing is on the wall. Our guide is the guide of all truth seekers and healers, a very brave, courageous individual that once graced our beautiful earth, and whose spirit has never left our side. Something guides the British and American government and the Vatican to cover up the cure for cancer. Something guides the British and American government to lie, cheat and murder 1 million innocent Muslims, to bankrupt and defraud all our countries, to poison our foods with the elements of food provided by their God, the guide of all science, a system used by the Vatican, all royalty, and now all lying, cheating, thieving, murdering, low-life, money-worshipping, immoral governments that have stolen our lives and denied all of us our birthright, the truth, the word of God, the creator of all the good in our universe. That is why none of your governments can speak the truth and know the truth, because it is true what the American Indians said of them. They do speak for the one with the forked tongue. I hope you now believe me before it's too late. We must stop them fast. The will of his Son, Jesus, has guided me to teach you all how to get back home. Do not be afraid. He will be there every step of the way, whether you are black, white, yellow, brown, whatever religion you are all equal. That is why all my life I've always had that saying ringing in my ear. I am better than nobody, because nobody is better than me. If you believe the Pope is holier than you, or the Queen is more special than you, then that is what you will believe. Why do you think Jesus taught you, do not look up to no man on earth, or call no man your father, only the Father in heaven? You must now see he meant scientists like Darwin, Einstein and Freud, and also this Pope, all from one group of people, and America are implementing a Marxist ideal, and he is of this group of people. Do you honestly believe that God, the creator of all the good, will create a world like this for you? A world of competition to live in? You must all now ask yourself a deep question. Do you want it to continue? If not, you must join together and rise up peacefully and seek the truth. That is why Jesus taught you, only in truth shall you be saved. I know, because the torchbearer of the truth is my guide, and once you accept his truth, you allow him back into your life. You must start a truth campaign. Seek and you will find, as Jesus taught you. Think the truth and it will come to you. Whatever you desire, you so shall have. May his light now guide you all, and his courage fill your hearts to do what we must do. Rise up peacefully before these demonic people destroy us once again. Help me, help you, help God, the creator of all the good, by spreading his Son's word, the truth, once again. He was never one of them. Jesus spoke out against their science, their money men and the rule of law. People of Europe, be warned. Europe is now in the control of science, bankers and lawmen or judges, and we witnessed what the law is used for, to spread the word of the devil. Rise up before he kills hundreds of millions of you with another famine. The truth is still truth, even if no one believes it, and a lie is still a lie, even if everyone believes it. It is why Jesus said, John chapter 8, verse 44, you are of your father the devil, and your will is to your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and has nothing to do with the truth because there is no truth in him. When he lies, he speaks according to his own nature, for he is a liar and the father of lies. But because I tell the truth, you do not believe me. Which of you convicts me of sin? If I tell the truth, why do you not believe me? He who is of God hears the words of God. The reason why you do not hear them is that you are not of God. The spirit world is now around you, waiting to guide you all back home. And it all starts with the power of your belief. That is why Jesus said, therefore I say unto you, whatever you desire when you pray, believe that you shall have them and you will receive them. People of Britain and America, you must learn that to get what you want in life, you must first give people what they want. All the land you stole does not belong to you, and in order to get your freedom, you must first give back the freedom to all the people that you stole it from, and it all starts with giving them back their land. The British royalty think they own 1/6 of the world's land, and now I hope you understand it belongs to my guide, and he has come to claim it. That is why he told the story of the landowner. They continue to destroy the body, but the spirit will never die. Surely now you must see that their religion is a lie, their science is a lie, and in the beginning there was no religion or science, just peace, love, harmony, health and happiness. Then they turned their back on our God, and have now forced all of you to be the same, as Jesus did warn us. Surely now you must once again believe in him. I have shown you why we were warned of the foods in the Bible. I have shown you how they have covered up the cure for all disease. And I have shown you all evidence that proves that your food has always been the cause of all your disease. Who do you now believe, God the Creator of all the good, or his Son, Jesus, who is my guide, or the scientists, the Satanists, Darwin, Einstein, Freud, and the American government that are going around the world destroying it, invading it, conquering it, to take over it and claim it for their own? Your governments keep tricking the world that life is a game. Well, the world now wants to play a new game. This time it's called life, and only this time Jesus will be our leader.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I swore an oath 11 years ago, and I think most of us in this room swore it at one time or another, to uphold the Constitution. It says life right in the beginning.
One thing we must all never do is give up our fight for life, or our fight for the truth and justice. I hope now you realize that their system of law has completely reversed all your beliefs and tricked you to follow their God. Life and the truth belong to my God, and it's something they will never, ever, ever destroy.